All right, so we are going to sketch this cos function in this video. The first thing I want to do is if I have a k value and a d value, I want to make sure my k value is factored. I'm going to factor out a -3 over here, and I'm left with x plus pi over 6 inside the bracket. Now I know that my amplitude is 4. My k value is 3, so my period is going to be 2 pi over 3. This negative over here means a reflection in the y-axis. Now, how does a reflection in the y-axis affect a cos graph? Let's do a little sketch of a cos graph over here. I have a cos graph. Cos graph looks like this. And if I reflect this in the y-axis, nothing changes. So a reflection in the y-axis does not affect a cosine graph. That's not going to have any effect on our sketch. I have a phase shift of pi over 6 to the left. And my equation of axis is y equals -3. So now with this information, I can sketch this out. Always start with my y-axis, and then I draw my equation of axis, which is y equals to -3. And since I have a phase shift of pi over 6 to the left, I'm going to extend it a bit on this side as well, because my first point is going to be on the left side over here. The next thing I'll do is my maximum and my minimum. So my amplitude is 4, -3 plus 4 is +1. My maximum is at +1, and my minimum is -3 minus 4, which is -7. I'll draw my x-axis next, which is here slightly below 1. And now I can start with my first key point. So this is a positive cosine graph. A positive cosine graph starts at my maximum usually. So it would normally start here, but it's phase shifted pi over 6 to the left. So I'm going to phase shift this to the left by pi over 6. So this over here is going to be -pi over 6. The next thing I'm going to do is find my last key point, and my last key point is just this point here plus my period. My period is 2 pi over 3. So if I do -pi over 6, and I'll do this in my calculator, -pi over 6 plus 2 pi over 3, that's going to give me pi over 2. So I know that my next maximum is going to be somewhere here at pi over 2. Now I know that directly between the two maximums is my minimum, and I'll use my midpoint equation. So I'll do the midpoint of these two. So -pi over 6 plus pi over 2 divided by 2 is just positive pi over 6. So pi over 6 here is my minimum. And then I'll find my two axis points. My axis points are just in the middle of these. So the middle of these two is just going to be exactly 0. In the middle of these two, I'll do my midpoint again. So pi over 6 plus pi over 2 divided by 2 is just pi over 3. So now I've got the first cycle of my cosine wave. I can draw it out. Should look like that. I know it's not perfectly even, but if you were on graph paper, this would be exact. On sketches, as you can tell, my axis is not perfectly straight, so that's why it looks a bit uneven. As long as you mark the points perfectly, though, you should still get full marks. If I wanted to draw a second period, I would just add another period to this pi over 2. So my period is 2 pi over 3. I'll do pi over 2 plus 2 pi over 3. That gives me 7 pi over 6. So my next maximum is going to be at 7 pi over 6. My minimum is going to be directly between these two. Then my two axis points are going to be directly in between these two, and I can use my midpoint formula to calculate these again. I can find the midpoint of these two to find this middle point here. Pi over 2 plus 7 pi over 6 divided by 2 is 5 pi over 6. And then pi over 2 plus 5 pi over 6 over 2 is just 2 pi over 3. And then over here, I'll do my midpoint of these two. So 5 pi over 6 plus 7 pi over 6 divided by 2 is just pi. That's how you draw a transformed cosine graph.